Okay, I just want to put together another video here. Um, Something that I think needs to come out and um, needs to be really explained, and that is that even here, I guess in America, in our bondage, um, when we look at melanated people, we look at black people, uh, look at the plight that we're in and everything. We kind of lump everything together. What I mean by that is we lump all of us together. People that are Afrocentric, look at the continent of Africa and see all the dark people, and they just lump us all together like we're all the same people, And a lot of these folks sometimes don't realize that there are people that look like us in Southeast Asia. There are people that look like us in Papua New Guinea. There are people that look like us in India, and as the Most High said, we've been scattered through the four corners. Now, um, the other thing that I think is hard for a lot of us to really understand is that just because we're all melanated and have dark skin, that doesn't mean that we're all the same people. Um, and it's really evident. Um, I don't want to spend time on the whole leprosy, where does white skin come from, et cetera, et cetera. You know, do your own research. Maybe one day I'll make a video on that. And I think as a matter of fact, I think Madison has a video on that she just put out not too long ago, which is pretty good. But the fact is, if you look at the biblical history, we were all melanated people that came, of the sons of Noah. Even Japheth, he was melanated. So when you look at all the melanated people of the world, we are not all the same, and then there is only a portion of us that really falls under the seed of Jacob or Jacob. The rest of us, or the rest of the folks out there, they could be Moabites, Ammonites, Amorites, Canaanites, et cetera, et cetera. So we need to be always cognizant of that fact that just because you see a melanated person walking down the street, don't just automatically uh, feel that this person could be one of us or of the seed of Jacob. And I think a lot of that has to do with what's in our spirit. Um, what I mean by that is, I think the Most High draws us um, to Him, to the truth. Once we submit to that truth, and there are other people that, for some reason, they get drawn into the more science, which I want to get into a little bit here, and or Egyptology, whatever it may be. And the other thing too is, we should not be judging by the color or texture of a person's hair or skin, because I am not going to stand in the way of what the Most High is doing. In other words, um, and I think a few folks and authors, have clearly pointed out that we have been sifted through the nations, and so because of that, we have taken on through our maternal line, you know, um, a lot of different seeds and so forth. So I'm not going to go there, and even also on the paternal, I'm not going to argue, because I know there was a provision that was given when our ancestors were in the wilderness, and one of the tribes had lost all their men. So um, the Most High had allowed that uh, the line of the women would be preserved in a special certain way. So read up on that. So I am not going to sit here and get very legalistic, um, about who was an Israelite and who was not. Other than, I think if we're drawn to this, chances are then it's the doings of the Most High. So with that being said, let's spend a little. We talk about the Moors. The Moors. This here in the Americas. We got Native Indians or Aboriginal Indians, that are claiming that they're Moors, and we have a lot of Afrocentric people saying that the Moors have been here. The Olmec African Mali connection, et cetera, et cetera. But when we use the term Moor, we have to be very, very, very careful, because just like looking at all melanated people as being the same, there is a difference between the Moors of, let's say, North Africa or Northwest Africa, and those people that call themselves the Moors today in America that claim ancestry from the Aboriginal Indians. Now, I think we've all been educated enough where we know that we're the children of Jacob, and so a lot of things have happened here, and in the Americas, we're all here. Israelites, Ammonites, Moabites, Canaanites, Hittites, Perizzites, you name it, we're all here. We're all melanated, and some of us, contracted leprosy. And I think, as Madison pointed out in her video, Jacob, was instrumental in driving the people, mostly the Canaanites, out of America and back into Europe, and where they became the servants of the melanated people there, who sent those people back here as mercenaries, and actually conquered us. And now you see today that these same people have risen above us, and they have become our oppressor, and they've also brought their gods for us to worship. But anyhow, let's just kind of go into something here for a second. What I want to show is this is the Circle 7, and I just want to give a little bit of the Circle 7 Quran, actually, and I want to give a little bit of an explanation as to the beliefs of Moorish science here in America, which was started by Noble Drew Ali. And so, look at what they think historically of themselves, right? It says, the inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites from the land of Canaan. Old Man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. Now, if we look at Canaan here, I think most of us know that, or have learned that, they came to America, and they actually were living here. So let's let's look at something. Hang on here, see if I can find that. Okay, so let's look at this. There's a brother at Negro to Yahuda, and I found him on Pinterest. Interesting stuff. He's taken some snippets of some books that I actually also downloaded, and but let's take a look at this. He goes, when following the course of the constellations, those immovably and perpetually fastened upon America are reached, it will appear that while that its sublime in the historic past centers upon Egypt, all that is sublime in the prehistoric past centers upon America. And of course, they have Atlantis in parentheses. And as the curtain which has hitherto concealed the prehistoric connection between the peoples of ancient Egypt and of America is lifted, it will be seen that the people of the Eagle, right, on the Nile, being descended from the original people of the Eagle on this continent, the twain are one. So in other words, the two are one, okay? And that prehistoric America was the original Egypt, or Eagle Land, prior to the mighty dispensation. In the days of Peleg, when the earth was divided, and the great globe itself was nearly rent asunder. Okay, so very interesting, isn't it? That that the two are one, and that prehistoric America was the original Egypt, or Eagle Land, prior to the mighty dispensation. So I just thought I'd bring that out. So props to Negro to Yahuda. I also have some other stuff that I'm going to read that I found on his Instagram page. But so, anyways, his father Ham and his family were second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem, the first true and divine name of Africa, the dividing of the land between the Father and the Son. The dominion of Cush, northeast and southeast Africa, and northwest and southwest was his father's dominion of Africa. In later years, many of their brethren from Asia and the Holy Lands joined them. Okay, so now this is where it gets really interesting. The Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa, they were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire. So, what he's claiming is that the Moabites are the possessors of the Moroccan Empire, with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan seeking new homes. Okay, so they were seeking new homes because what? Because Jacob and the Hebrew Israelites had driven them out of their lands. Okay, so what they're saying here is that they all came and congregated themselves in northwest Africa, and that permission was prepared to them by the Pharaoh of Egypt. So think about that. And then it says, their dominion and habitation extended from northeast and southwest Africa, across great Atlantis. Interesting, isn't it? Even unto the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico and the Atlantis Islands, before the great earthquake which caused the great Atlantic Ocean. So right here, this right here shows you that the Moorish Science Temple here in America, founded by Noble Drew Ali, these people believe that they are descendants from the Moabites, Canaanites, Hittites, and Amorites. And we know biblically, who these people or what these people mean to us here, to us Hebrews. Bottom line is long term, they are not our friends. Okay. Now let's go up to the beginning of this pamphlet. And this is a free pamphlet. Anybody can download this. If you want to know, if you kind of want to get a feeling for what more science believes, look, Life and Works of Jesus in India, The Friendship of Jesus and Lamaze, Jesus Reveals to the People. So, hopefully you understand, this is all under the spell of the Pharaoh. It's got Christianity in it. So, anyways, I'll just leave it at that. But I just wanted to show you the summary here, the genealogy of Jesus. There you go. Let's see, where is it? I thought it was at the very beginning. Oh, here we go. So, and this is in the beginning. It's part of the preface of the Circle 7. The industrious acts of the Muslims of the northwest and southwest Africa. These are the Moabites, Hamathites, and Canaanites who were driven out of the land of Canaan by Joshua and received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle in that portion of Egypt. In later years, they formed themselves kingdoms. These kingdoms are called this day Morocco, Algiers, Tunis, Tripoli, etc. So there you go. Okay? So, now whether, this stuff is true or not, I just wanted to bring this out because, yes, the Moors did go up and through Spain and they did rule Europe for 1,000 years and they did bring culture and so forth. I'll give you that. But, a lot of us Israelite brothers are quick to throw a picture of a Moor up and say, look, there's an Israelite. But, folks, we have to understand, I'm not so sure if that's the case. Remember, these were the melanated people that went went up into Europe and ruled Europe. And yeah, could there have been Israelites amongst them? Absolutely. But remember that it's these dark melanated people that sent these mercenaries or sent these people, the Spaniards, the English, the French, the Portuguese, into these lands. Under the premise or under the guise of dumb diversus and other papal bulls to enslave us perpetually. Okay. So, anyways, so that's the more. Okay, and so here in America again we have a lot of natives or Aboriginal people, melanated people claiming that they're Moors. Now, the funny thing is that at the founding of this country, there was a treaty between the United States uh, and the Kingdom of Morocco, and let's see here. Oh, here we go. Period. Yeah. So this is the Barbary Treaties of 1786 to 1816. A treaty with Morocco, June 28th and July 15th, 1786. Now, I'm sure most of you have seen that movie, 12 Years a Slave, um, where there's a melanated person that's from the north, and has a business and a family, and uh, he's tricked somehow into getting involved in some kind of business deal, and ends up drugged and and sold into slavery. And a lot of people here in the states, a lot of us um, melanated folks go look at a movie like this and say, "Wow, man, there was a black man that had a business, back in the Revolutionary or the Civil War period, or pre-Civil War." Well, the fact is that there were Moors in this country that had businesses, and they were free men. Okay, they were free men. They were not part of the Native Indians or Aboriginal Indians. These were Moroccan people. Okay, now who are these Moroccan people? I just like I just explained to you. They are these people right here. Okay. Oops. I think I just deleted the link. Let's see here. Yeah, here we go. And so, the United States um, had established a treaty of peace and friendship. Now, I also know, and I didn't bring this up, and I'm not going to look for it for the purposes of this video, but or for this video, that I also know that the United States had borrowed quite a bit of money from Morocco to help finance the Revolutionary War, believe it or not. But anyhow, this is a treaty of peace and friendship between the United States of America and the Bey and subjects of Tripoli of Barbary. Now, I'm not going to go through all the articles, but there were a couple. It's definitely worth reading. There was definitely a relationship, and there was definitely a humanitarian effort on both sides with laws, that would protect the citizens of each country while they were traveling in the other country's lands. So here you go. I mean, this right here shows you that and definitely people read it. If you read through it, you'll be really surprised at some of the stuff that you will find in here. Um, one of them that I found was that monies would be paid in Mexican currency, which it doesn't make any sense. But then when you think about the Marines, um, the founding of the Marines and that song they sang, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. Well, think about that, okay? Um, there's something to this here. Um, but anyhow, I didn't want to spend too much time on that. But um, this, so there were melanated people living in the U.S. And I kind of want to show you a clip of a video. Um,
A lot of the founding of America was based on Moorish science. If you see paintings of the inauguration,
I want to stop right there. This gentleman says Moorish science. Okay, remember that. Noble Drew Ali. Uh, he came on the scene around the turn of the 20th century, so around the 1900s, 1800s, somewhere around that time. I could be wrong, but like 10, 20 years. But Moorish sciences, it shouldn't say Moorish science. I think what he probably should have said was that Freemasonry and so forth was something that was, I'm not so sure if it was invented by the Moors, but it was definitely brought into Europe by the Moors. Okay, so just wanted to clarify that.
George Washington, it looked like a Masonic ritual. So again, Masonry is based on Moorish science. So they would have these Moorish advisors around them. If you look at old paintings of George Washington, you will see George Washington standing next to a black man with a turban. And remember, when you see the black man with the turban, that's a Moor. That's not a slave. See, people automatically assume that black is slave, but slaves didn't wear no turbans. Because remember, slaves weren't allowed to practice no Islam or any other kind of religion except Christianity. So when you see that turban, that's a black man. And there's a few pictures of George Washington and other people with Moors or black men with turbans standing next to him. When you see that, just know that those are Moors.
Okay. All right. So you can see right there that, there were Moors in America during the Revolutionary War, and they were Moors. They were Moroccan Moors. I'm not talking about the Aboriginal Indians, okay? Moroccan Moors. And I just want to, continue to emphasize is that, we as a people have to stop lumping all of ourselves into one pot because we're not all the same people, right? And, the name of the video is right here. You can see it. It's definitely worth watching. Some of the atrocities. Here, let me just kind of fast forward here.
This question that why would they brag about signing treaties with our oppressor, with our murderers? You understand? With the cracker that's raping our women, our mothers and our foremothers and our sisters and our babies. The same cracker that's raping our women, our babies, and the man, they signing treaties with them. Let's go even further.
All right, so I'm going to stop it for right there. So you saw very good points that this brother brought out here, but I want to kind of go into the African slave trade here for just a quick second here, and just there are some things that I think we need to really seriously question when it comes down to that. And then let's look at some of the numbers, okay? So in 1993, the United Nations Center for Human Rights recognized the Washita de Duc de Mondial Moor as the oldest indigenous group of people on Earth. Interesting. But look at this. According to this Project 21593, I got to find this here, but it says 12 million slaves arrived in the Americas between 1540 and 1850. And that's over a 310-year period. 12 million. Okay, now I've heard numbers that are up as high as 100 million. Okay, anyways, just want to kind of put the numbers out here. Statistics state the 13 colonies had a total of 600,000 slaves. Okay, between 1770 and 1860, there were 4 million slaves. Now, okay, they have children, and so forth, and so yeah, okay. Now, the largest seagoing vessel, according to the records, carried 400 slaves, but all the ships were not that large. The time of passage was 3 to 4 months. That means 200 ships per year would have to travel carrying 300 people. Now, that means that a slave ship had to have been leaving Africa every day and a half for 310 years. But it says here, one ship could make 3 passages per year. So how many ships, just think about it. How many ships For 12 million? Where's that number? For 12 million, how many ships? If one ship could only make three and a ship was leaving every day and a half. Folks, do the numbers, man, okay? Uh, the transatlantic slave trade database says there were 1,100 to 1,400 voyages made over that 300-year period. Okay, that still doesn't add up. Do the math, folks. Now, if that's the case, each ship carried 400 people. The total would be 560 Africans were transported. Okay, that number is close to the claim in item 3 that says there were 600,000 slaves. But I just wanted to kind of bring that out. And then number 9, did Native American tribes help slaves escape, or were Americans with African ancestry all part of the Native American nations that existed before Columbus was on the scene? Well, I think we all know the answer to that, because 4 million slaves in the U.S. in 1860, right? And after the Civil War, 3.5 million slaves were freed. So, this whole transatlantic slave trade, yeah, I'm sure there were some that were brought here, right? But not in the numbers that we've been told. As a matter of fact, let's see. Yeah, so this is a book that I highly recommend people get. The book Africans and Native Americans by Jack Forbes. And just to understand, Jack Forbes is, I guess, he's of the Native American persuasion. Definitely Caucasian, parents somewhere in the background, but from the traditional or the contemporary view of how this country or how the world views Native Americans, you would consider him a Native American. But Jack Forbes here, he paints a very different picture of history than what most of us were taught, about the origins of black people in the Western Hemisphere. We were taught that black people came from Africa as slaves, that the Red Indian was the true Native American, and that white people took black slaves from Africa and stole the land of the Red Indians. And he says right here, this story is nothing but giant fiction, a novel made up by white historians to deceive the masses about the original history and peoples of the Americas. Jack Forbes uses a letter of Jesuit missionaries, to prove that Negroes or black Moors were the first Americans, and in fact were the black and olive-toned people found in the Western Hemisphere, commenting from Jesuit letters on the appearance of Native Americans. Forbes states, for example, in 1519 it was said of the Brazilians, "No sono neneri ne blanqui, ma de colore de olivo." In other words, that is they are not black or white, but of olive color. But the same writer remarked that the Brazilian canoemen he saw were so black that they could have been taken for sailors on the Sea of Styx. The author continues his comments on the appearance of natives in North America from the Jesuit letters. In 1524, the Carolina Coast people were said to be of dark color, not much unlike the Ethiopians. The term Negro and Indios were used interchangeably to describe the natives in the journals of early missionaries who could not have possibly been referring to Africans. Okay. And again, some pictures here, but there was something down here. Oh, yeah, here we go. So the Dutch artist Jean Verlis painted these paintings of so-called Mohawk chiefs who visited London in 1710. The paintings were housed in Kensington Palace. Kensington, which is an area in Philadelphia named after this palace, held the original name Shakamoxum, or they say Shakamexum. Remember, there's a Moorish slant. When I say Moor, there's a Moorish slant in this writing, and this is from the Moorish Science of America not the Moroccan Moors. Okay. Um, the original name of the Mohawks is Canaan Ka, which resembles Canaan. And it very well be, because if you look at the photos down here, these people look more of the, I guess, what we would call the Mongol or the Hittite type Asian. The center picture is the chief of the Creek Confederacy, Tomochichi, and the members of his nation in England, 1736, have intercourse with James Oglethorpe, then proprietor of the colony of Georgia. So you can see here that, definitely, yeah, there, you know, you can see that, yeah, there were other peoples here. I mean, it just wasn't all. I mean, because you see here, what I mean by other peoples, there were different looking people here in the Americas. They weren't all one. Okay. Um, so anyhow, I just wanted to bring that out. So, and there's a couple other things that I wanted to bring out here. Let's read this. Uh, this is something that came from this brother, as well as on his site there. Therefore, even though the European invaders knew there were blacks settled and living in the Americas, built cultures and civilizations in the area, and had trade and cultural relations with the African continent, they kept these facts well hidden. It was much easier and more deceptive to claim that all blacks in the Americas came to the region after slavery. You guys get that? It was much easier and more deceptive to claim that all blacks in the Americas came to the region after slavery. Now, he could have just said blacks, but he said all blacks. Okay, do you guys, okay? Um, by so doing, they could easily claim the lands of blacks as well as Indians without the worry of having it retaken from them or contested in a court. Okay, you see that? They tell you you're from somewhere else and then they steal your land. Okay? So again, the worry of having it retaken from them or contested in court by the descendants of these blacks, us, who still exist today and are in fact a large portion of the 300 million blacks in all the Americas today. Folks, it's right there in front of us, okay? Um, when the British arrived in the Eastern Caribbean, the, the Garafunas, along with a number of black nations, existed throughout the Caribbean and other parts of the Americas. Okay. The islands of St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and others had settlements of black as well as Mongoloid Caribs. Okay. There we go, the Hittite. Okay. After many years of the guerrilla warfare against the British, a treaty was signed between the Garifuna and the British colonists about 1787. While the Garifuna were forcibly extradited to Belize, Nicaragua, Mexico, and parts of Central America, you see that? They were forcibly extradited to Belize, Nicaragua, Mexico, and parts of Central America. People related to the Garifuna, however, had been going to these same nations before the Christian era, so they already had been traveling and trading with them. Therefore, the movement of the Garifunas to this area was merely the continuation of a pattern that was very ancient. Today, there are millions of blacks who reside in the Caribbean, South America, the US, and Canada who are of Garifuna ethnicity, blood, and origins. Many are unaware of their true origins since they were part of a large conspiracy put forth by the so-called church during the 1400s. The conspiracy was put forth by religious people who misinterpreted the biblical story of Ham and the so-called curse of Ham, which is actually was a 2 to 3 generational curse on Canaan, a son of Ham, or Cham, as we know in the Septuagint, whose descendants today include Jews, we're talking about the Israelis, people who live in southern Europe, Spain, and all the areas where the Canaanites settled. This belief in the mythical curse placed by Noah was carte blanche, used by the European religious conspirators and others to enslave any blacks found in any lands, anywhere, dum diversas. Therefore, when they arrived in the Americas, the blacks they met here were automatically considered slaves, and their lands were taken. So that's the end of part 1.